Welcome to week 2. So this week we're going to be talking about classification modeling. So think of this as supervised learning. So as part of that, we've got a discussion question and we've also got a model that we're going to create inside of SPSS. Now this is part of a 3-week series. The first week we'll develop the initial model. We'll go through some exploratory data analysis. The second week we'll add on the predictive models that go along with it. And then the third week, and we'll finish off the evaluation, the tuning of the model, and have it ready for deployment. So essentially, you're going to have a block of 3 weeks where you're going to be working with the same classification model stream that you create. So first off, let's start off with the discussion question. The discussion question here, describe classification models. What does it mean? Define it as defined in the text, major components, how you do the selection of sample populations and data exploration, primarily the first part of the modeling process, and what would be some of the strengths and weaknesses. Where would you use this approach? What would be some of the strengths and weaknesses of the approach? That's what we're looking for out of the discussion question. Now, as far as the actual written assignment, you're going to turn in both the model as well as an analysis document to go along with it. So you're provided with the two files here, the promotions file and the transaction file. And given those two files, within your analysis document, you're going to state your business objective. What are you trying to do with this data? So here you're talking about a promotion file, a transaction file, going along with a marketing campaign. Define that modeling approach, design a modeling process, talk about what are the kinds of data that you could include with this. If you'd like to go ahead and include additional data as well to enrich it, that's even better. Investigate your data sources, select which to use, perform some EDA on that data, do some validation cleaning, any enrichment that you're going to do on this initial set, and then provide guidance on how you'd validate that data set. So it's pretty much the first part of the CRISP-DM framework or the data science workflow process. It's the first part of that is what we're going to do for this. You're going to turn in both the SPSS stream as well as the analysis document. So let me give you a quick example. So here's an example. Here's an excellent example, actually, of a analysis summary. So here it's going to talk about what the objective was. It's going to talk about the model that you built. Now this is actually the final analysis summary over the 3 weeks. So it'll have some additional things in here you don't have to turn in. But to just show you what one kind of looks like, set up the context ahead of time. Set up the context saying this is what you're evaluating. Then go into the models itself. If you've got the actual model built, then you start talking about what it's predicting, what's the value, what are you interpreting out of the charts. So again, we talked a little bit last week about gains and lift charts. Here's an example of a gain and lift chart off of that data. Here's also an example of a ROC curve to go along with it. So we talk about confusion matrix, we talk about tuning. It goes into what's happening with inside the model. If you've got multiple models, like in this case here, you'll talk about what those individual models are doing. We're going to talk about bagging and boosting in a future week. So as part of that, if you do bagging and boosting, talk about what's the value that comes from those. Bootstrapping, same way. If you use an ensemble model, so if you connect multiple models together to produce a model, such as a logistical regression and a C5 model, that would be something that you'd want to talk through. What's the value, what's the results of the ensemble model, and then summarize what it's going to be. Now, this is, again, a complete analysis document. Looks like this. Make sure it's in APA format. So, just do your best as far as APA format. This one here doesn't have a cover sheet and a reference page. Now, for most of these, you won't have reference pages, but a cover sheet is required as part of it. My example doesn't have that. So for this first week, what you're going to be looking for is probably just a one-pager, a very short type summary saying, this is what you looked at, this is the things that you evaluated as part of your exploratory data analysis. So just knock up a couple of pages that'll talk about what you saw inside of your model. Turn that in with the actual stream itself. Now, since that was an actual live, related to this data set, I don't want to give you the final results out of that. I don't want people to somebody to use that for their actual model. Now, let me pull up the actual model itself. Here's an example of a model. Now, I won't go into too much detail related to it, but eventually what you'll start with is you'll start with your source file. So in this case here, you're provided with the transaction file, the product file, and you'll go through these first steps here. This is where the EDA is taking place. Now, I've done super nodes here. So within your SPSS flow, I've actually put up some super nodes. Within those super nodes, I want to treat each of these files individually. So what's some of the kinds of things you would do in your EDA? You'd look for null records. You'd look for distincts. You want to see what could you just learn from the data just initially taking a look at that data. So where all the transactions are valid. An audit node inside of SPSS would handle that for you. If you want to do a grouping and do for distinctness, for instance. So here I'm going to do a grouping on transaction ID and customer ID. And then the output of that, what do I see for that? If I do the aggregation, I can see that, for instance, customers have multiple items per transaction. So these are all kinds of things that you'd want to do in your exploratory data analysis. When you wrap that up, then you'll want to merge these files together. And so by doing a merge between the two of them, you'll have a final data set that's what you're going to actually start building your models off of. Now, further from that, I've gone in and added a promotions file and then broken that off at the promo 1, promo 2 responders, promo 3 responders. So basically taking it through this first initial EDA step, that's the expectation for this week. And by the way, it is expected that you're going to have a very rough model the first go. That's why you go through 3 iterations. This is very common to what you would do in the real world situation when you're building out a model. So turn in something like this and you're going to get full points for the assignment. I have seen some students have already turned in full models. They've actually gone through and done the auto classifier. They've done the modeling on the back half of it, and that's also okay if you've taken it to that step. It's just really what you're going to be graded on is this first half of the process flow for this week. So if you got any questions, again, office hours are tonight. This is Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. You can join up for office hours. I'll field questions there. You can also post that in the help desk forum or send me an email directly and I will respond. Any questions, just please reach out. Have a good week. Thank you.